It's hello to everybody that's here to join us today. I want to welcome you all to the very, very first session of From Ahead of the Curve, which is a new company I put together, kind of spur of the moment. I thought it'd be really fun to inform you about upcoming technologies, about all kinds of different things that are kind of happening presently. As you all know, the present situations have basically forced us to really shift gears quite a bit and move into a completely different direction, and kind of come up with these new ideas on how we can kind of push forward together as a community, how we could push forward as a team, and talk about some really cool, interesting technologies that can be applicable today, and also kind of help inform you of these different technologies that are available, bring on some really cool speakers, and also show you some of the different tools that are available and technologies that are available for you to learn while you're at home. So I'd like to introduce my very first guest, Berto Mora, as some of you might know him from All of It Now. Today we're going to be talking about virtual production, different workflows on how to work in virtual production, and how we might be able to extract location dependency from being able to produce and do some of these events. So I'd like to introduce you guys to Berto. Berto, welcome.
Hi, thanks Jeff for having me. This is really exciting. I really appreciate you having us on here. And I'm gonna, try to explain a little bit of the things that I know, and hopefully you guys can learn a little bit of, some new information, or some of you guys that have been following me probably already know some of this stuff. So really exciting to see a lot of you in here and, kind of listening to what we have to say. Thank you.
So I just want to say hi to a few people there. Hey, Jules, nice to see you two again. Hey, Isabel, Andrew, and Dan. Nice to see you guys join us. Awesome. And hey, a whole bunch of other people. We got Alan and Jonathan and Kyle. Thanks for joining us, guys. That's awesome.
Hi, everyone. Appreciate you guys joining us.
So, Berto, why don't we open things up here, and if you wouldn't mind maybe telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the company, what you guys do, and then we'll kind of jump a little bit more into the topic that we've chosen for today.
Yep. Yeah, so, my name is Berto Mora, and I've been working with a company called All of It Now. I'm actually a partner in the company. We're based out of San Francisco, California. We're a creative agency. We do a lot of digital content, immersive experiential installations, and we like to experiment with a lot of technology and come up with new ideas that we can use within our workflows. So one of those hot topics today is virtual production. So we kind of have been focusing a lot on the idea of virtual production and the technologies that surround that term. And that's kind of a little bit of what we do at All of It Now. I would like to play, before I go too deep into it, I would like to actually play our demo reel. This is brand new. This will kind of show you guys some of the work that we've been working on, some ideas that we have. It'll have professional, or it'll have our actual work that we've done for clients, and then also R&D ideas that we've done internally. So let me go ahead and play that for you guys.
Awesome, let it rip. I think we might actually be missing the audio part of it right now, Berto.
The audio should be, it might be maybe a little low. Oh.
How about we just rip right through it, and maybe you can kind of give a play-by-play as we go through.
Yeah. Yep, so let me turn the audio down a little bit here. So yeah, as you can see here, we use a lot of real-time tracking tools for our work. This is an extended reality stage over at Disguise's office. We design content, we place ourselves inside the environments. Here's some other examples of that. This is a partnership with Mouth Media. Really great team to work with.
Yeah, that's some really cool stuff.
So we kind of helped them on content design on this one. He's doing a lot of amazing stuff, and we're really excited to be able to work with him on that project.
This really fascinated me when I saw you guys do this a couple of weeks ago and post some of the testing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really, really unique and really neat. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that kind of as we move in as well, about the butterflies.
Yeah, definitely. So, so that's a little bit of all of it now. That's a little bit of our work. There's also, just like everyone else, there's a lot of work you can't even show that we would love to show. But that's kind of just a taste of what we've been doing. A little bit background about me. I'm from a very small town in California, and it's called Bishop, California, probably 3,000 people. I moved 2 days to San Francisco after I graduated. So I graduated Friday, left on a Monday because I just needed to get out of there. But at the time, I was actually really interested in film and photography and cameras, and I went to film school, whatever that is, but it's kind of studied film, studied digital content creation, and from there I was really fascinated by a term called match moving. And match moving is, it's kind of when you composite 3D graphics within your composited, with your live action footage. And I really wanted to do this stuff when I was in school, but it was really hard to do because the technology just wasn't there. Everyone was running on Apple laptops. You were rendering a frame, it would take like 20 minutes. It was really horrible, especially when you were trying to learn this in school. So kind of did that. Then from there, started working in, different film industry aspects. One of them, which I thought a lot of people like, is I worked for Mythbusters, did a lot of, I started as a PA runner, and then eventually I was able to run like the slow-mo cameras and things like that. So I did that for a while, was a professional video editor for about 5 years. And I kind of got sick of that. I kind of really got sick of the hierarchy of the way that film worked, which is kind of funny because I'm now trying to go back into the film industry.
Isn't it funny? I did some film work myself, just to date it back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I was like, man, I swear to God, like the work hours and the treacherous, like just everything that goes into it. I was like, okay, that was cool, but I'm not doing that again. And then we find ourselves like trying to trail our way back into those markets again.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And then, so then after I did that, I kind of stopped all the film stuff. And I was like, I really need to get serious about what I really want to do with my life. And, eventually I went to City College and studied computer science. I took about 2 years of, just hardware electronics. And I really was interested in at the time, we didn't call it real-time technologies, but I was really interested in taking sensor data and then processing that data, whatever sensor that was, whether it's an accelerometer or it was, a light sensor or a flex sensor. And I really like to visualize that data within 3D engines. And, fast forward to today, I'm really focusing full force on, merging technology with the film world and broadcast world. And that's kind of how I got to where I'm at today. But within all this, I met some amazing people, Danny and Howard and Kevin and the rest of the team at All of It Now. Back then it was just 2 of them. Then it started with myself, and then Kevin joined. And once that happened, we really took, the company serious and started forming something out of it, and bringing everyone's expertise to kind of create this company that we have today. But yeah, that, a little bit of All of It Now, a little bit about myself, and kind of how I got to where I'm at today.
Yeah, that's awesome, Berto. Awesome. So tell me, let's get into the beef of the presentation, and let's talk about why we're here. Let's talk about virtual production. And
yes. So these are a couple little topics that we kind of wrote down for you guys, and we'll kind of go through these along the way and kind of talk about specific things. So, what is virtual production? A lot of us today are really familiar with this picture. It's made its ways around the internet, and it's fascinated a lot of people in the industry, to the point where virtual production is this very hot topic today, and everyone's trying to learn it. Everyone's trying to know what it is. Even myself, I'm trying to learn really what it is. I explore with the technology. I think I know what it is, but every day that I learn a little something new, I know. I realize that I don't really know enough, so I just kind of dive deeper and deeper. Here's a simple slide that I put together, and I'll kind of go ahead and read this
Sure.
for you guys. But the term virtual production is very broad. Originally, the term came out of the film industry, where people started to use real-time technologies to enhance their productions. Whether it was simulating virtual cameras to navigate through virtual 3D worlds or capturing real-time mocap data to puppet their virtual characters, there are many components of virtual production. Those are just a couple that are pretty popular and that people can relate to today. One of the most recent successful virtual productions was The Mandalorian. In this example, they use a 270-degree semicircular LED wall with a 75-foot diameter. This allowed them to virtually shoot outdoor scenes indoors within the volumes, which is pretty exciting. One of the biggest benefits of the technology is that it allows you to render any environment in real time, obviously if it's optimized properly, from the perspective of the physical camera by sending real-time positional data of your physical camera to your virtual camera. This is just one of the feature benefits of the technology, but there are many, many more than just those. Those are kind of just one of the main ones. Is being able to track your virtual camera with your physical camera to actually get that illusion of merging the physical and virtual world together. Virtual production has been around for a very long time, probably a decade or more. I'm sure there's experiments out there that showcase where this stuff was born. But one of the really old films is Avatar, and in this one they actually use virtual production as mocap and facial capture to augment their characters. And I'm sure a lot of you out there have seen many of these behind the scenes of this workflow happening.
Or at least I've seen the movie.
Or at least I've seen the movie, which is funny. I really don't watch films, and I actually haven't even seen this movie, but I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes. That's kind of how I watch my films, is by watching the making ofs and things like that. So that's kind of a little bit of virtual production within the film industry, right? But in reality, it doesn't have to be the film industry. You can actually take this, the same technology, the same workflows, and apply it to other industries. For us at All Now, we're actually trying to apply these technologies and tools for live entertainment, whether it's a live concert, a keynote, some esport event, or really just some R&D project that we're trying to do in-house. Really, it doesn't just have to be part of the film industry.
That's really important to touch on too. Like being able to synergize and bring these different workflows into formats that can be applicable across different market segments and be applicable across, what different projects and different things that people are working on.
Yeah. So, here are just some images that I found online. One of them that's, one of the ones to the top right is the Lux Machina team. They're actually one of my biggest inspirations to do this type of workflow. Another one is Build Studios. These guys have been doing this for a very long time, and as I started diving more into real-time content, real-time shows, and just real-time in general, I started learning what were the tools that people were doing, what companies were doing this type of work, and the Lux Machina was a huge inspiration. I went to about 2.5 years ago. I went to one of their demos where they had just a really tiny LED wall, Stipe was there. That's actually where I met Stipe, and Marcus was there as well. He invited me to the event, and very exciting stuff when I saw, this
Marcus, I believe, is on right now, actually.
Oh, hi, Marcus. Thanks for joining. So yeah, it was very fascinating to see, that they were using a real camera to actually move around the space to actually render their camera perspective. And ever since I saw that, I was so intrigued because, as I mentioned, I was trying to do this in 2008, but the technology wasn't there. And to be able to see it today in real time was really what made me think of like, oh, I really need to get back into this type of workflow and industry, because now I can actually do what I've always wanted to do. And the best thing about real-time technology as well is that, a lot of people don't like don't like the idea that you can just iterate forever, because you can go with the client and the client says, oh, it's real time, and you don't have to render, you can just keep doing this, keep pumping out iterations. But in reality, for me, the iteration part is really more of what allows me to be creative. It allows me to test different things rapidly, so that I can actually prototype much quicker. And see if the idea is going to work or not. That's really, for me, why I really got back into it, because now I can test things much quicker. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, technology has come leaps and bounds, especially over the course of like the last 5 years, from both a hardware and software perspective. Things have just changed so incredibly much.
Yeah. So, some ideas of these images that we have here, one of them is to the left, the top left, we have a virtual camera. So virtual cameras are really interesting, and they're probably one of my new favorite things that I've been experimenting with. And, what you're able to do is you're able to actually take instead of using a real camera, you can use a virtual camera. And what that means is, you can use this device in the picture that has a monitor. It's receiving wireless video, and it's sending wireless data back to the render engine. So if you think about it, you're sending real-time data from the position of that monitor to the server, and you're also sending the real-time rendered video feed wirelessly back to this device. Here's an example that I've kind of been putting together at the office, and in this example, we're using Unreal Engine. We're using Stipe's follower system. Blacktracks also has a system like this where they do IR beacon tracking, and you're able to create either single point XYZ tracking, or you can do 3D rotational and XYZ tracking, which they call a rigid body. So this system here is all wireless. Obviously, it's not optimized for like a filmmaker. That's like the next step. We're really thinking about how can we make these things feel more like real cameras and have like actual DPs, play with these cameras to make them feel more realistic. So that's an idea of a virtual camera. And another cool thing about all this stuff is in the Unreal Engine, and I'm sure in other engines as well, you can actually do takes of all the real-time data and, go back and edit that, or have shots not just with your virtual camera keyframe, but also your virtual props or whatever you have for that. In the middle here, we have people that are having motion capture suits. They also have
looks like there's some props as well.
They have some props. These virtual props, what they do as well is they start tracking them, and they start placing that 3D data to the actual virtual props so that it seems like the character is actually holding something realistic. I think the idea behind all this is it's kind of funny, because at the end of the day, a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just shoot this for real, right? Like, why spend all this money?
All the hassle and all the trouble.
Exactly. Why put all this stuff on? Why do it like this? But as in the age of of today, where no one can really travel, we're all stuck indoors. I mean, these technologies are very useful because you can have your own home studio and stream that data across other networks and really pipe it into one server, maybe on the cloud, to generate some sort of project that no one was in a studio for. Everyone was doing it from home. So those are just some ideas of the possibilities of what you can do with all this stuff. And yeah, it's really, really exciting stuff.
I wanted to touch upon the green screen stuff too. Berto and I, of course, had talks before we went live with you guys today, and we were just kind of, tossing back and forth different things. And I was talking to him a little bit earlier about how applicable like green screens are. I was mentioning that in the past, I was like, oh, green screens are awesome. They were really used for, chroma keying and keying in virtual backgrounds and basically virtual scenes. And I was like, okay, well, that's pretty cool, but it's going to become a fad, and maybe it's going to be replaced by using other display technologies. We're seeing a lot of use of LED walls and LED technology to be able to be used as virtual scenery for backgrounds. But now I was mentioning to Berto that it seems like it's almost more applicable now than it was ever before in some ways. So
yeah,
a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's another, as you mentioned, a lot of people have been thinking, and I also thought this idea as a while back. I was like, you know what? Once I started seeing these LED solutions, I was like, you know what? The green screen is dead. And as I started experimenting more and doing more experiments in my office, I realized that it's really not. What it is, you know, you're actually able now to, as you can see in this image, you can create this virtual box, have this person stay there, and you can do this all this in real time. So the great thing today is that you can actually composite in real time. So whether you're doing you know, real-time capture to composite in real time on set, or taking this to your post effects house and doing the post there. Today, now what you can do is, you know, you can key this in real time, you can add objects in real time, you can place everything where you need to be placed, and you know, and not have to worry about either compositing later or vice versa. But I think the main difference here is, you know, you're able to have different plates. In the LED part of this workflow, it's really hard to key out a person. You know, you have your composite already done, you're compositing in real time, your person's in the back, your object's in the front plate, whether it's you're including something in front of the actor. But with the green screen is very fascinating because you can now create an entire virtual world and really move farther within the space than you can with a virtual LED setup. At least I think. The reason why is because once you're in a green screen, you're able to extract the person and create a plate. Whereas with the LED screen, your plate is kind of what the camera sees, which is good for some things and not good for others, right? So there's pros and cons for both.
I think the other thing too is, you know, there's associated costs. So, you know, like painting stuff green is probably more cost effective than buying or renting a huge LED wall.
Yeah.
Or even like stuff for people to be able to work with from home. You know,
exactly. Like, and yeah, for anyone really trying to learn this kind of stuff, you know, or this technology or this workflow, the green screen is perfect. You know, it's really the same type of workflow, except for one of them you're keying out, and then the other one you're not, and everything's already there. So it just depends on where what you guys are trying to do with it. But I'm trying to experiment more with green screen because I see there's a lot more possibilities, at least with compositing, than what I see with actual LED solutions. And you know, people mix both. I've seen setups when I was doing a little bit of research of this, where people actually use LED walls and then put green screen inside of that volume and key that out and recomposite or project that graphic back on there.
Yeah, actually, you see a couple of comments here, you know, like Isabel saying that she sees a lot more LED in big projects. Kevin, of course, mentioning that cost and setups are some of the biggest factors.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Jason was asking or saying that you could use projection also to compensate for cost, or was asking actually, can we use projection to compensate for the costs?
I mean, we tried to experiment using projection. It's a little harder to kind of control and, you know, mounting and all that stuff. But a lot of people can do it. I think at the moment with the workflows and solutions that we have going, we haven't gotten there yet. Those are definitely in the talks from some of the beta softwares that we've been talking to. The reason why is, you know, because a lot of this technology, as we know,
Mora effect. Sorry, it was Mora. Isabel was talking about.
Mora, yeah. So actually, we, in one of the beta groups that we have, someone, I think Scott Miller, posted about this optical filter that goes. It's a low. I think it's called a low pass filter. And this, apparently, I haven't tried it, but they claim that this low pass filter that goes over your image sensor actually reduces and removes Mora. So that's something really, really cool that I recently learned about less than 2 weeks ago. We haven't bought it yet, but we're hoping to get one so that we can deal with that. One of the reasons why, and I started researching, I was like, oh, why does this exist? Well, one of the reasons why is because, you know, a lot of people, when they do interviews, a lot of either ties or shirts have Mora. So someone had to come up with a solution for that. And that was a low pass filter that they put on top of the chip that actually eliminates the Mora. I actually haven't tested it, but we're looking to get one so that we can test that, because this will solve a lot of those issues that people have been dealing. Another thing too is we're doing some tests at Disguise a few months ago, maybe half a year ago, and there was a big difference in full camera sensor chips compared to cropped sensor chips. We realized that a full sensor chip of a camera, like an ARRI Alexa, those you get less moire to no moire than you would with a cropped sensor. So also that it's also based on the image sensor, which is where the moire is being caused.
Awesome. So I think we're going to continue just screaming a little bit forward so we can get through. We've got a lot of content to bash through. I also want to hear from the folks that are online too, maybe about some of the tools and some of the things that they've been using as well, which would be interesting for the group.
Great. So want me to move on to the next?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. So this one's just for what markets would it help? So I kind of just jot down some ideas as well as some images. But some of the
because one of the points of what I'm trying to do as well with this is to try and introduce different technologies and tools to different markets as well and bleed over. Like there's a lot of people that are sitting in fixed installation markets that don't really truly understand some of this technology. There's some people in themed entertainment or location-based entertainment that don't truly understand some of it. So it's really neat to basically talk about these different technologies that are available and how they can basically flow into these different market segments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of the markets that we've been thinking that this would be great, and it's already happening today. It's people are already doing this stuff, and live events, esports, concerts, keynotes, and broadcasts. Here are some images of some events that I found online and some of them that we've done. But you start seeing, I think, a lot of car keynotes started doing AR and started using the virtual production workflow where they can now bring a virtual car on stage and kind of show each layer of that car, whether it's the interior or the motor or how the aerodynamic flows through the engine, things like that. So it's a new way of kind of displaying people's content in real time. Yeah, do you have anything else to add for that?
You've got a pretty darn good job. I saw some of the tools. AJ Mapping Matters, awesome. I've been using that for a while. It's been fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think, Matt, we're going to get into talking about some of the camera tracking solutions here fairly soon. And yeah. Yeah.
So these are some markets. One of them is esports. You can see the image at the bottom in the middle. That was the AR Dragon that everyone's, that was probably one of the biggest awesome moments that has happened in AR in this past year or 2 years. All those things are very inspirational. Another one was one of our very first AR projects at Olive & Now, where I was actually still learning, was a CSGO live event. Unfortunately, we were only able to do the opener scene for that show, but we had all these ideas for it. But at the time, we were still learning. A lot of this technology was still very, very early. It was almost alpha. It wasn't even beta. The developers were building, lens warp features as we were on this show to get what we were trying to do. To do what we're trying to do. So another one is,
you're throwing yourself right in the fire, right?
Yeah, that's always fun. And another one is having virtual studios for your actual presenters for either the FIFA World Cup, Olympics, or any of those events. We're finding more and more that people are trying to use these solutions for their broadcast events, really.
So let's dig in a little more and talk about some of the projects that you worked on implementing some of this technology and how your company has implemented and worked out some of these workflows.
Yeah, so what type of projects have we worked here involving virtual production? We have a couple, and one of the latest ones, one of the very latest ones that we have is the BTS Love Yourself World Tour. So we did augmented reality for that tour, and it went all over the globe. It was actually one of the most toughest projects we've ever worked on. Dealing with that, dealing with outdoor environments and unexpected variables that we didn't even think about when we were actually R&Ding this in our office. You never really would have thought that those things would affect you when you actually went on site. Another one is the Halsey Ellen show. For this one, we did a virtual door where it was a virtual room. It was a physical door with a virtual room. So as they were filming, we were able to go through this virtual door and actually go into this room full of pedals and kind of look back out and, kind of see Halsey singing. So that one's totally different. That was, for live TV, that was indoors. That one was much better to put together than our BTS one. Another one that I think is, I wouldn't call it so much virtual production, but it involves a virtual production tools is 2 years ago, we were hired to do the Coachella stereoscopic live stream. And we were hired by, we partnered with Google, YouTube, in a company called 6 Degrees to be able to do this. And we were able to take stereoscopic cameras, attach real-time tracking, or I should say a Stipe Red Spy on it to actually track that camera and bring all that into Disguise as a stereoscopic feed, composite graphics, do real-time visuals on it, and then stream it to the internet so that people can watch it on Google Cardboard. This one to me was probably one of my favorites because it's something that I've never done and really haven't seen been done. And it was just really exciting to see that, you can wear a VR headset as you're doing a virtual or a real stream and compositing virtual graphics to stream to the internet. One of the best things about this is that it was stereoscopic. And with stereoscopic, if you guys haven't seen it, things look 3D. So it was really, really amazing because you're able to determine 3D objects. And one of the most important things about stereoscopic is, you have to make sure that your objects are the right size, the right distance. Otherwise, the biggest issue that you get is you don't know if your AR object is really small and close to your face, or close to your eyes, or really far and really large. So you need to be able to get the perspective right. Otherwise, stereoscopic will not work for your viewer, and it just won't make sense. So that was a very interesting project, and I would consider it virtual production, but in a streaming type of way. Here's some of the behind the scenes of kind of those projects. So as I mentioned,
sorry, before you go a little bit further, it just sounds like you're a little muffled. I don't know if you're just from the microphone, possibly.
Let me maybe bring the microphone closer to me. Does that sound better?
Yeah, absolutely, like a lot better.
Okay, great. So these are some images from those projects that I showed you. The top ones are from the BTS tour. For that one, it was a 15 meter by 14 or 15 meter square stage. That one was really tough because they were building the BTS logo in the middle of our tracking area, so we were constantly fighting for time and space. And for those of you that have done, if you guys have done real track or mapping for your AR tracking area, you really need it to be clean. You really need it to be empty, and make sure that you are the only one on stage to be able to do the mapping. Whereas in this tour, it was really impossible to get that. At times it even rained, so it got to the point where we had to get people to come in squeegee and literally clean and wipe the floor by hand so that they wouldn't remove our actual markers.
Joyous.
Yeah, it was very, very, very fun. That was, like I said, one of the most complicated ones. And not only that, there was a lot of AR, or there was a lot of IR occlusion from the seats. So it would overexpose all of our markers, and it was really hard to actually calibrate. So the thing about this project was that, we would calibrate it in the morning, everything would work. As soon as we hit rehearsals, nothing would work because the sun was super bright IR light that would overexpose everything. And when we would see this effect next was right before the artist would actually use that effect. So we were always crossing our fingers, making sure that, we were hoping that everything was going to go right. It was super complicated, a lot of variables, but the tour was very successful, and a lot of people really enjoyed the effects. And yeah, we're really, really proud of this one. Thanks to all the Now team, and everyone that the Fragment 9 team as well, that hired us on to tackle this project for them. And yeah, we had a lot of fun on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I hate to move along, but we're going to have to kind of continue moving.
Yep. No worries.
Just to make sure we can hit our deadline.
Yeah, so what is a typical workflow for virtual production? So we have this little map here, and a typical workflow involves real-time camera tracking, whether you're either tracking a virtual camera or a physical camera. You need a media server to actually host all the data, whether it's your content engine, all the real-time camera data, or motion capture data. You need your AR content engine, whether it's Unreal, Unity, Notch, or any other engines that people use. Some people use proprietary engines, like if you're doing an esports event, they have their own game engines that they adapt to this. And then you need to figure out your content destination, whether it's your IMAX screens, your internet, or your phone, or wherever that may be. And
some crazy stuff in open frameworks as well, and basically hard coding a lot of different things for applications.
Yeah, and then your real-time data sources, as I mentioned, whether it's your motion capture, your lighting data, any kind of data that needs to go into to manipulate your AR scenes. And yeah, one of the most important things that actually makes it a lot easier is having a media server that can actually take all this in and really put it all together. And one of those media server companies that have been working really, really hard is the Disguise media server. And actually, shout out today, they actually released their AR build for those that actually want to start learning more about these workflows. I would go to their website and check that out, because they just released that this morning.
I got the website or the email today saying that 17.1 was released.
Yep. So that's kind of like the typical workflow map of of your virtual production workflow. So what tools should I learn to use? And there's a lot of tools.
There's so many of them that are out there.
These are only some of the ones we use, some of the ones that we know, but I'm sure the list is probably 10 times larger than this, or even larger. But if you look, you can you have your render engines, whether it's Unreal, Unity, or Notch. Those are kind of like your vanilla render engines, and on top of those you have your zero densities and your pixeltopes, and those are actual render engines that are built under, or those are softwares that are built under Unreal platforms. And what they do is they add a layer or a wrapper that actually allows it to be more useful for a specific workflow. Zero Density kind of specializes in doing virtual studio, indoor studio applications, a lot of green screen, a lot of virtual prop stuff. Pixeltope is really good for augmented reality and actual AR for live broadcasts and things like that. They all have pros and cons, but these are just some of the render engines that you can use to create. Media server, there's Disguise. I know there's other media servers out there. I know of them and I've used them. I just don't know how hard they're pushing their virtual production feature set. I just know Disguise. They're really, really pushing hard on this, and it's amazing that they're doing this, because someone needs to do it to push the industry forward. You also have your tracking tools, whether it's Stipe, Moses, NCAM. NCAM's not on here. I couldn't find their logo with Alpha, so I didn't want to deal with it. And also you have your tracking systems, whether you have Xsense, Blacktracks, Noidum. You could use all these tools to kind of create these workflows. Also, we were talking about earlier about price points and if you want to learn specific technology.
Yeah, I was just about to ask about, there's a couple of questions. Kagan asked about affordable tracking solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are more affordable that might be available for people to kind of jump into at home.
Yeah, so something Danny mentioned here, he said the Vibe Tracker, and there's actually a lot of people right now experimenting with Vibe Tracker. If you guys actually go online and follow on Facebook, actually, it's the Unreal Virtual Production page. There's this guy there named Matt. He's actually doing a lot of cool work with a Vibe Tracker, to the point where he's tracking his camera. He's actually using a Vibe Tracker to pull focus with it as he's rotating it. Super cool stuff. So yeah, the Vibe Tracker probably today is your closest low cost
based tracking solution.
Exactly, to start kind of getting these workflows going. And it just depends, like if you're trying to just do in studio, that might work perfectly. But if you're trying to take a Vibe Tracker to a large stage or arena like the BTS, it's a little harder to do. You need a much more robust system that can capture a much larger space. There's also OptiTrack and things like that. And with those systems like OptiTrack or the Black Tracks or the Stack Follower, you can use their IR tracking LEDs to actually move virtual objects in space. So all you got to do is just take those 3D points and kind of merge them with a 3D camera or your virtual camera, and then there you go, right? But the cool thing that I really like about the Stipe and the Moses and the NCAMs is they actually have solutions in place that will actually take real physical cameras and adapt the technology to those cameras so that you can get the lens warp, so you can get the right sensor image chip, all those things to take it to a more broadcast level or a broadcast ready production.
Awesome. I'm just kind of streaming down some of the comments here, and there's some really great content that are being fed into the feed right now. So Sergio was asking if you could can you say the Facebook again for the Vive Tracker? The name of the tracking solution.
So one of the main ones that I've started following is Unreal Engine Virtual Production.
Unreal Engine Virtual Production.
That's a Facebook page that he's curating and doing a lot of amazing experiments, a lot of green screen stuff, and he's doing it at a low cost, in a low cost way. He's not really using displays and using real-time tracking systems, kind of like what the Lux Machina people are doing over there. They're doing it more for like the film industry, really catering. Not saying that the Vibe Tracker isn't for the film industry, but it just, the technologies are totally different. But if you really want to learn, the Vibe Tracker is a great start. I mean, I think I don't know how much they are now. I don't know if they went up to the price, but I remember they were like $100 or something.
Yeah, they're not very expensive.
Yeah,
they're a few $100 easy.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised, Isabel.
That's funny. Well, it's funny because we bought Vibe Trackers, I don't know, like 4 years ago or something, and we had no use for them. We're like, oh, these are great. But now they're actually coming back, and people are really finding a lot of creative ways to use these trackers. So it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. So Berto, I'm going to actually just kind of go into wrapping things up. We're going to stay online, folks, after this is done to answer some Q&A that you guys might have and kind of continue the conversation on. But I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. I wanted to especially thank Berto for joining me today on at least giving you guys a little bit of an insight on some the different techniques and things that are being used for virtual reality, well, VR, or sorry, not VR, but augmented reality, some mixed reality, virtual production in general. Next week, I'm going to try and do this weekly. So next week on Thursday at 1 p.m., I'm also going to be bringing on a guest, Tupac Martyr, and we are going to be going a little bit behind the scenes from Cosmos and talking about some of the stuff and some of the technologies that he used and challenges that he used in producing that event. So once again, everybody, just wanted to thank you very, very much for joining us today. And please click on the link if you haven't already in the show description to join up for that one next week.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate everyone joining. And if anyone finds really cool information or any cool XR real-time stuff, please share it. There's a couple pages, as I mentioned, the Unreal virtual production site on Facebook, which is a page, and also I have my own page called the Real-Time XR Production, and we use these pages to kind of like inform people and show people technology and really show your work, so that people can see it and really more and share knowledge and information. That's the most important thing. It's kind of what I believe in, is the more we share, the more we know, the more work there is for everyone, and especially when it's...
And now more than ever, we really need to start coming together and collaborating more. Drew, yes, there's definitely going to be replays available. We're going to be posting as well to YouTube, and we'll be reposting the replay as well on Facebook as well.
Yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in. This is really exciting stuff. Yeah, very, very exciting. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
So let's open it up for Q&A. Anybody who wants to post anything else in here, we'll be hanging out for a few more minutes, just kind of wrap things up, but please feel free to drop in any questions you might have in the comments, and we'll see how many we can bash off in the next little while. Demo video in front of a green screen.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say thanks to everyone. Everyone's saying thank you, thank you.
So, you know what, while we're just kind of going, I wanted to talk about a few other things. We were also talking earlier about like some of these new systems that are coming out. There's all kinds of different media server solutions. As you know, a lot of my background comes from media server-based technology and looking into new emerging technologies that are coming into our field. One of them that's been fascinating me that's showcased is stage precision. And I know that you've been beta testing stage precision, so it would be kind of neat to kind of talk about that a little bit, because I think that there's some really interesting things that software can basically bring into our field, and also, from my understanding, it's becoming more accessible for people to be able to test out.
Yeah, so I was talking to Jeff about this. So I've been using and beta testing a software called Stage Precision. One of the amazing things that I like about Stage Precision is you can actually take any, well, not any, but they're supported protocols that they have, and you can convert one protocol to another. So say if you want to convert Stipe data to Blacktrack's data, they actually have those mechanisms in place, which is pretty interesting to me, because maybe people are working in their own media servers that support specific protocols, but someone hasn't written that driver, or you can't get that data from one place to another. So it's kind of, think of it as like a middleware software, but not just that. They consider themselves a 3D unifying tool, and they're actually able to bring in any kind of 3D data and process it and spit it out to be something else. But as I mentioned, they support very popular protocols that we're all familiar with in this industry. And yeah, I've been testing it to just translate data from one form to the other to send to different softwares. Not only that, they also have rigid body creations. So if you're dealing with some system that is streaming position data, but it's not either a Blacktrack or a Stipe or whatever systems are out there, you can actually take in data from many sources and kind of wrap it around a protocol like that. So
that's super awesome. So a couple of questions actually we've got from Joel. What is the bottleneck of the current technology? Which is a fantastic question.
I mean, for us, obviously, the biggest bottleneck is time.
Yeah, of course, naturally.
Yeah, specifically in these type of workflows, especially in the broadcast industry, everyone wants everything super quick and super fast. Everything is live. Same within the concert industry. You have a lot of, there's a lot of things happening, so you don't have enough time to set things up. a lot of the times budget is an issue too. But I think for us, time is the biggest issue compared to budget. Some people, about, I would say 70% of our projects, people want to do with us will approve the budget, but as soon as we let them know how much it's going to cost, they drop the project because they don't have 4 hours to calibrate a camera, for that space. So, that's the biggest bottleneck. Another one is education, educating clients, educating people that are interested in doing this kind of technology. You have a lot of people out there that if you let them know, if you have an object in space and they ask, hey, can that person walk around it? There's solutions in place for that. But technically the way that compositing works, you're compositing still on 2D layers, which this is still a 2D layer composite unless you're in a virtual studio environment. They don't understand that. So, a lot of people will get a misconception that your character can actually walk around an object and in front and behind, right? So those kind of education type of situations that you have to educate your clients and really just about the workflow and the possibilities. One of the biggest things too is, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of people think because this is real time, you can do this much quicker, but they don't get that you still have to be creative and create this stuff. It's not just like magically appearing out of a hat. So that's kind of one of the biggest things that we've learned.
Back to that good old saying, content is king. And
Yep.
you have to have the time to be able to create the content and really storyboard it and come up with proper theories on how you're going to be able to create those environments and create that content that can be delivered for the client and what they're looking for as well as far as the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other questions we have from Grant is Grant from VYV is asking if we would be able to speak a little bit more at length about how location dependency can be removed, especially with today's environment and with us all staying at home now, talking about how we can create these different environments, even from our home. And I think we've touched a little bit upon that, a little tiny tidbits of it, kind of we peppered it throughout the presentation today. But maybe we could talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay. Let's see.
So, I think the big thing too, with a lot of these technologies that are coming to play, especially with mixed reality, virtual reality, and extended reality, a lot of these technologies can be utilized in much smaller spaces where you don't need to have, a huge audience, especially to be able to produce these things. So as you've seen in a lot of the movie studios or even home studios, there are a lot of different methods and different ways that you can now virtually implement scenery or virtually implement even characters. They could be CGI created, or they could be real. They could be real and then mix those within a scene. I was also talking earlier about what we could start looking at moving down the future, some really big crazy ideas. One of the things that I thought that would be really neat would be building a full concert environment where the musicians are on stage, say in a studio, and then the audience members basically all throw on a VR headset, and we can basically be a virtual audience all together, still experiencing, it would be a little weird, I guess, at first, but kind of experiencing still something where we're together and bringing VR as a intermediary kind of technology to pull people together and build a full virtual performance, which could be interesting. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Berto?
Yeah, no, similar. Yeah, that's kind of the next step is, we had a conversation yesterday of, being able to do these extended sets, I guess that we would call them. But one of the biggest things we were discussing is, at the end of the day, yeah, we wear headsets here, but you still don't get that feeling like you're there on, at a concert, on set or on site. So I think one of the biggest things about this stuff is, as technologies evolve, sensory, being able to tap into, the human sensory, our senses, to feel like we're at Coachella, to feel like we're at Red Rocks, to feel like we're at that concert experience, and really feel like there's people around us. That's kind of the biggest challenge right now. But as technology furthers and advances, we'll be able to get closer to that.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of companies that are also going out and shooting a lot of VR footage to be able to integrate into, all kinds of different things. So I think as that library kind of extends and becomes more publicly available, it'll really help kind of expedite the process and being able to create those virtual environments.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's just today. Like today, we're actually building these environments manually with render engines, right? But I've seen some, actually, GTC is probably going to be talking about this in their virtual keynote that they're going to have. But as we keep advancing with AI and those type of technologies, they already have algorithms or features or whatever they want to call them in place that actually are generating 3D scenes in real life. Or in real time, I should say, where you tell it like, I want it to be Japan, I want it to look like Japan, and all of a sudden it renders that city for you.
It renders Japan.
It renders it in real time based on its neural networks. So we're getting to a point now where I'm not going to say creating 3D graphics or creating 3D worlds is going to become obsolete, but it's going to get to the point now where it's going to be enhanced by AI mechanisms, right? Where maybe what you do is, you create your 3D world and you still have to texture it, but you tell an AI, hey, I want you to texture it for me so that it looks as realistic as possible based on these criteria. I want it to look like it's a little bit of Japan and a little bit of Hawaii, whatever you want to say, right? So these things are going to happen. These things are happening today. And, it's only a matter of time of those people putting it together and showing those white papers and demos. And everything's just going to expand. At the end of the day, it's going to be about content. We've been having conversations with people where they talk about all this technology, and actually one of those people is Jeff that we have right here. And we had a conversation a while back where I was like, what, like, this is great. Like, I'm making all these like realistic scenes, and they look real or they look kind of real. But at the end of the day, once you create the scene, what are you going to do with it, right? Is it just going to sit there, or are you just going to render a couple shots? At the end of the day, really, it's about content and the message that you're trying to deliver to the audience that's in front of you, right? So no matter how pretty your scene is, if you don't have content or a story to tell or to convey to your audience, it doesn't really matter. It can look as pretty as you want it, but at the end of the day, there's that's the end of it.
Absolutely. So I'd also like to hear from people that are still with us, some of the topics and some of the things that you guys would like for me to talk about, or even bring people on, bring specialists on. I'd love to also have some feedback from you, just about things that you're exploring, maybe some things that you want more information on. I'd be happy to also share some of my own experience, of course, with you guys on some of these sessions. And yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you want to see and what you want to hear and what you've been working on as well. So Berto, I just want to thank you so much for joining me again today. I can't thank you I can't thank you enough for being here, and I've just really enjoyed having you on, especially for my first run at this. So
no, this is very exciting. Thanks.
You guys meet too. I'm in my wife's studio, so
yeah.
Sitting in another part of our place, because she does a lot of stuff online as well, and a little Hello Beautiful action going in the corner.
But no, thank you so much as well. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. It was fun acting like I know what I'm talking about. That's great. But
it was all a lie, everybody. It
was all a lie. I mean, this is just from my experience of things that I've gathered and just researching and playing and testing with. And I hope that some of this information helps you guys. If you guys have any questions, please reach out. I'm always active online, helping people, or if they have questions or anything like that. If I have the time and I can't answer it, I will definitely do that. But yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me.
Again, I mean, we're all in this together right now. We are here as a family. We are here as a team. We are here for each other. So don't be hesitant. Don't be afraid to reach out. We are here for everybody. But I just want to, again, thank everybody for being here. And thanks for supporting us. Thanks for being part of the community. And let's all stay ahead of the curve.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everyone.